you're on a low carb diet, you can still join my wine club and just give the wine away. Give the wine away as a gift. See, I've got mine right here. Which this one's from Chile. They're all hand selected for the stuff I like, which is very remote regions, high altitude, extreme altitude, between 6,000 and 9,000 feet. Some of them family operations. One vineyard's over 200 years old, still using natural fermentation techniques. And they are great wines, but okay, you're keto. So it's a holiday season. It's time to give the gifts that keep on giving. And that's to support the show. And to do that, you go to AllisonWinePromo.com and you will get 6 bottles of wine every 3 months. And you know what? It's not cheap wine. So you're not going to want to drink a lot of it anyway, because you won't be able to afford it. You'll go bankrupt. So that way you can stick to your low carb diet. Just take a little tablespoon at dinner and go on your merry way. Very happy to have Dr. Ken Berry here today. We're going to be talking about all kinds of things related to nutrition, but since we're coming up on Christmas or whatever holiday you're celebrating, it probably involves chocolate of some kind. And trending within the news right now is this great, fabulous, potentially too good to be true news that eating dark chocolate 5 times a week, which would be once a day, basically, except for the weekends, or maybe Wednesday through Sunday, however you do it, this could lower your risk of diabetes. Now, they don't really say, they just say dark chocolate, Dr. Berry, but I know I make my own chocolate. So maybe there's different ways you can make dark chocolate. And we can talk about that too. But let's just take it on face value here. They're talking about going to your local grocery store and just buying dark chocolate. I don't actually even know what's in that. So can we start there? And what is actually in dark chocolate, and why would they say that this could lower your risk of diabetes?
So dark chocolate, just like any other plant-based food, contains thousands of different polyphenols. And what these researchers are saying is there's some magical phytonutrient in dark chocolate, and they actually compared it to milk chocolate and said, see, dark chocolate is better, but I've got a better way to word that I'll share with your listeners in a second. You hear this all the time. Oh, blueberries contain this magical ingredient. Oh, pomegranate juice. Oh, whatever, this root from the Himalayas or this berry from the deep Amazon jungle has got this special polyphenol or phytonutrient in it that is going to somehow magically transform your health. If your listeners think this sounds too good to be true, that's because it is. This is foolishness. This is nutrition research foolishness. And the nutrition research is full of this sort of thing. And if you actually go and look at the conflicts of interest at the end of this study, one of the researchers is actually financially tied to a company that, wait for it, surprise, surprise, makes chocolate. Oh my God, what a shocker. Just like everything else in the mainstream narrative, there's a financial motive here. And this guy was funded, at least in part, if not in whole, to find a good benefit about eating chocolate. So what the research actually shows, if you read the study, which I've done, is that dark chocolate is less bad than milk chocolate because on average it contains less sugar. It does contain more of the polyphenols, the phytonutrients, than milk chocolate because milk chocolate is watered down with more milk and more sugar. And so, yes, dark chocolate is not as bad as milk chocolate. Milk chocolate is just dessert. That's it. Dark chocolate, especially if you cut way back on the sugar, is going to be less bad. And it probably does have some beneficial polyphenols, but they are in no way going to prevent you from developing type 2 diabetes or prediabetes. Dark chocolate's not going to reverse your prediabetes or type 2 diabetes. This is foolishness.
Okay. I have to ask. I'm afraid to ask. I make chocolate with coconut oil, honey, and organic cocoa powder. What do you think about that?
I think that's one of the least bad ways you can do it. If you go very light on the honey, honey is just sugar. People say, oh no, but that's a natural sugar. Well, guess what? The sugar in a Hershey bar comes from either sugar cane or beet sugar or corn. Those are all natural things as well. They grow in the ground. And very often bees collect pollen off of the corn silks or the flowers of these plants. all sugar is not a health food. No sugar is a health food. Even the very expensive honey is just sugar. And I know that hurts a lot of people's feelings and raises emotions sometimes, but this is fact. You can look this up. This is not debatable. Some people can eat honey and fruit and sugar from other natural sources and do fine metabolically. Other people who fatten very easily, who develop prediabetes or type 2 diabetes very easily, need to avoid all forms of sugar, including honey and including dark chocolate.
Mm-hmm. Why do you think that an article like this gets picked up by the news with very little critical thinking? I'm going to guess that most journalists probably did not even read the study. Even if they did read the study, they probably don't have the medical knowledge that somebody like you does to really parse it out. Is it just because we all just want chocolate to be good for us, and so we'll just take what we can get if something comes? So we're not critical of it. It's already aligned with our confirmation bias.
Yes, it's all that tied up with a bow on top. So first of all, the mainstream media is in severe financial trouble. We see stories about this all the time. So no one still employs a science editor, definitely doesn't employ a medical or a nutrition editor. They can't afford that anymore. And so they just find a research study. And typically the reporter doesn't even go and look out for the research studies. They just see an article online. Oh, dark chocolate's good for you. Okay, good. And then they write their article, or AI writes the article for them. I'm not sure which. But now let's talk about the consumer of that news. Most people, including me, freaking love chocolate, right? We love chocolate. We've loved it since we were a kid and used to bite the ears off of our Easter bunny. We love chocolate. And as we get older, though, we become more self-aware. Like, I'm not 10 anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a little overweight. I've got some health issues going on here. So when we are given this false narrative, this false choice, oh, but dark chocolate is somehow magically healthy, we're like, yes, I get to eat chocolate. Maybe it's not as sweet, maybe it's not as milky as I would like for it to be, but at least it's chocolate. And therefore, chocolate is a health food. It was on WebMD, it was on MD Consult, it was on all of the, CNN, Fox News. Everybody had an article about this.
Mm-hmm.
So how could that be wrong? The way it could be wrong is that if you study human physiology and human nutrition, like me and many other people have, we're like immediately. And then the first thing you do anytime there's a nutrition research article is go look at the conflict of interest. You don't read the beginning of the article. You go click on the study, go to the very bottom of the study and see if there was any financial conflict of interest. And indeed there is. One of the guys is sponsored by Big Chocolate. And so all of us want to believe that chocolate is somehow magically healthy. That would be awesome if it were. It's not. Now, but I do believe, to be fully honest, I believe that a low sugar dark chocolate is very much less bad than just eating a Hershey bar. And there may be some minor health benefits, but it is in no way going to reduce your diabetes risk. And you see, they did a good job in this article because they put the word may. No, they didn't. This article didn't. They say a sweet way to reduce. So that implies this is absolute truth, right? Some of the articles you pull up will say may reduce. Now that's more honest or less dishonest, because any smart news consumer is going to know that you can replace the word may with may not, and it's equally true.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So you could, but if you put in the headline, dark chocolate may not help lower type 2 diabetes risk, that doesn't have the same ring, and that doesn't call up all of our childhood love of chocolate, then you'd be like, well, okay, well, why would I do that? But everybody, anytime you see a news story in medicine or in nutrition or in health, and it says, fill in the blank, may fill in the blank, replace the word may with may not, because those are equally true, and then reread the headline with may not in there, and then suddenly you're like, oh,
right.
Well, that's not very helpful at all, because may equals may not. And so, but as you showed in one of the articles previously, they say, oh, this is a sweet way to lower your type 2 diabetes risk, as if this is proven fact. This is terrible journalism. terrible journalism when you imply from a study like this that this is a proven fact. You can eat that dark chocolate. It is going to improve your health and decrease your diabetes risk. That we have a technical term for that in medicine that it's called bullshit.
I think that's in farming too. Daily dark chocolate, a sweet way to reduce diabetes risk, as you said. So the question mark, as a former TV reporter, that was always an easy way to just keep yourself from getting sued, because you just put the question mark there, and like you said, it could be a statement, it could be a question, but we don't really have to answer that. This is WebMD. They say people who ate at least 5 servings of dark chocolate per week had a 21% reduced risk of developing type 2 diabetes compared to people who rarely or never ate chocolate, according to a new study. So they're telling us that it is good for you. I mean, it's not just because they're not saying they had a reduced risk compared to people who ate Milky Ways. They're saying compared to people who didn't eat chocolate at all. So I want to ask you about that, but real fast, if you are somebody who has been interested in the concentrated butter oil, fermented cod liver oil that I have been taking for over a decade, it's really helped with cavities. You see cavities all the time. I'll be talking to Dr. Berry about cutting out processed foods, which certainly helps. But this is a product that is processed the way that Dr. Weston Price, biological dentist at the turn of the century, formulated, and the company greenpasture.org, which is where you go to get it. Use promo code Allison at checkout. Allison with 1 L, you get 10% off. Great company. Wonderful, small, family-owned company, and really very health freedom oriented, free speech oriented. So all kinds of other great stuff besides the fact their products are really wonderful. So if you are looking for something to help with your dental health or brain, joint, muscle, all kinds of stuff, this is just a really great product. Again, I get the cinnamon tingle flavor. My kids take it. One of them we might have to hold a little bit forcefully. The other one takes it like it's going out of style. I will not say which one, but we like cinnamon tingle. They also make a chocolate and capsules. And again, you get 10% off if you use promo code Allison at checkout, greenpasture.org. Okay, so yeah, going back to that last part I wanted to bring to you, they are trying to really tell us that it's, compared to those who rarely or never ate chocolate, that we would be doing ourselves a service if we were to actually start the habit of eating chocolate, not even saying like, okay, hey, if you already eat chocolate, like it's better to do it this way, like you were kind of alluding to, but actually saying, hey, if you've never eaten chocolate before, you should start eating dark chocolate because you might end up with a lower risk of diabetes. How did they squeeze that out of this article that this person or the study they wrote?
So this research is observational in nature, and much of nutrition research is like this. All it can ever show is a possible association. So this 21%, what they're talking about is an odds ratio, and we get to the deep in the weeds very quickly with statistics. And if you don't understand this stuff, then you literally have to take a college course to understand this stuff. I took one. This does not prove anything. The way this author, this journalist worded this is completely dishonest and disingenuous and misleading. This is journalistic malpractice, but it's such a frivolous topic, right? That they're not going to get sued for this. Nobody's going to care because you're not really hurting anybody directly, immediately with this article. But this journalist is harming the health of every single person who reads this and then goes and then they have the take-home message. Oh, so dark chocolate's good for me. Okay, every time I go to the supermarket, I'm going to buy a bar of dark chocolate now because it's good for me. That's what the consumer takes home from this. Mm-hmm. And you know, as a journalist, that the title with the question mark, just speaking psychologically, the human mind doesn't see that question mark. They just read the statement and they hear that in their mind, and that goes straight to the subconscious, right? Mm-hmm. So it's almost as if all these thousands of different articles out there are a free commercial for the chocolate companies, which is exactly why the chocolate companies do this kind of research, because they know this is going to be a trigger article. This is going to blow up. This is going to go viral. Everybody's going to read this. They're just going to read the title in the first paragraph or two. Nobody reads the full thing. Maybe 1/1,000,000th of 1% of people are actually going to click on the link to the study. And then they'll just read the summary. Nobody, literally one person out of 1,000,000 is going to actually read the study. But if you did read the study, you would find that the researchers use much more metered, much more temperate language. They don't say any of the things that this article says, which that's exactly how a researcher should speak. Very, very tempered and metered. And they do in this article, and they don't in any way imply. They just say, well, it looks like that this might. And they say words like that in the study, which is exactly the language they should use. But then this immediately gets magnified in the mainstream media. And the consumer gets the take-home message, oh, dark chocolate's good for me. Okay, start buying dark chocolate. Because I hate dark chocolate, but it's so good for you. Here's an article. This article's been everywhere. I need to start eating dark chocolate. And so what people need to understand that if you want to prevent or reverse prediabetes or type 2 diabetes, you've got to cut the sugar out of your diet. If you eat unsweetened dark chocolate, then you're replacing something with that, right? And so instead of eating the Hershey bar, you eat some dark chocolate. That's a less bad choice, right? Maybe even a good choice, but that's not going to prevent or reverse your diabetes. The human physiology just doesn't work that way. That's not how it happens. You've got to drastically cut the sugar in your diet to prevent diabetes or to reverse diabetes.
Okay, on that note, at AllisonMorrow.locals.com, you get to put in questions ahead of time for interviews for people like Dr. Berry. It's $5 a month, which comes out to be like 30 cents a question. I think it is a high value. And since over there where I posted about you for people to put their questions in, says licensed physician and keto advocate. And I know keto not super well, but I know it well enough that you really don't, you don't quite on the outside of keto understand the drastic sugar reduction you need to make until you really try it out. And it's pretty serious. I'm talking fruits, all kinds of stuff that you got to be really, carbs, just generally speaking, it's low to be technically a keto diet. At least that's how I understand it. So when you're talking to people, they're listening to us talk about dark chocolate, you got to cut your sugar, you reduce sugar. Can you explain what you really mean by that? I mean, what is a measurement that we could take home if people are watching? Okay, I'll take his word for it. Like, say I want to add a little dark chocolate. I'm going to look at the label and see how many carbs are in it or what the sugars are. What do you recommend both for, okay, say a person is pre-diabetes or, in the danger zone where they're like, I have to make significant cuts, or somebody versus somebody who is generally healthy and wants to stay on track? And let's talk real numbers, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure. So if you like chocolate and you want to eat some dark chocolate, I think that's fine. Find the chocolate with the least amount of added sugar possible, because real chocolate doesn't come with any sugar. That's why Allison adds honey to her chocolate recipe, is because it's very, very bitter if you just eat the cacao or the cocoa. But don't think that's a health food. Just to be honest with yourself and say, I like chocolate. I want to eat the least bad chocolate option out there. So I'm going to get the chocolate with the highest percentage of cacao and the lowest added sugar. There you go. You get your chocolate fix and you're not really doing any real harm to your metabolism. If any of your viewers have prediabetes or type 2 diabetes, or they don't want to ever develop it, they've got to cut the carbohydrate intake in their diet. And so the easiest way to do this is to just stop eating anything with added sugar and stop eating anything with wheat, rice, oats, and corn, any of the grains, because all the grains are just long starch molecules, which are made up of sugar. And they break down immediately into sugar in your body. So for 70 or 80% of your listeners, if they just stop the added sugar and stop eating grains, that's it. They're bulletproof. They're never going to develop prediabetes or type 2 diabetes. And if they already have diabetes, it's going to start to improve immediately. And when they get their A1C checked in 3 months at their doctor's office, their doctor's going to say, wow, this is your diabetes is better. What have you been doing? That's for the majority of people. That's all they have to do is cut out the added sugar, cut out the grains. And for some people, that's not that big of a sacrifice. They're like, okay, fine, I'll do that. If it means I can take less diabetic medication, I'll definitely do that. Some people are like, but bread though, what are you talking about? How am I supposed to give up my bread? Well, I'm a very common sense guy. If eating the bread is worth being a diabetic, go ahead and eat the bread, I guess, and take the pills. The problem is that the medical research does not really show that taking the pills And the injections to control your diabetes really prevents the complications of diabetes. They just make your blood sugar prettier. They don't protect you from the disastrous complications of diabetes.